Welcome, welcome, welcome to another exciting episode of Wind Down with Kev. Let me begin with gratitude. Thank you, and thank you. That goes out to all of you that have already hit the subscribe and the notification button. Thanks to you, we are growing week over week over week. Thank you. Big thank you to my sponsors. You see Carol Media in the background. For all of you listening to this that are looking to grow your presence on social media, send a shout out to Carol Media. They've helped me gain 2 million impressions, over a million impressions in the last 2 years on social media. They can do the same for you. Also, if you're looking to make life easier, streamline your processes to get information easier, make it easier for your clients, please reach out to Canopy Connect. Their processes are great and easy, and we can't move forward without thanking Wintrust Bank, my financial partner in everything that I do. That being said, thank you for joining me on this journey of doing 50 podcasts with 50 insurance agents from 50 different states. It has been exciting. We've been from one end of the country to another, and today is no different. Today, we take a journey down home to Morgantown, West Virginia. The agent that I'm bringing to you today from Morgantown, West Virginia, absolutely phenomenal, high performing agent, award winning agent. He's won all the sales awards, Circle of Champion, Honor Ring, Inner Circle Elite, National Conference, Pinnacle Elite. And one thing he and I have in common, he is also a Ray Lynch Award winner for all the good that he has done in the community. Ladies and gentlemen, put your warm Wind Down with Kev hands together, and let's give a warm Wind Down with Kev welcome to Jeremy Radabow.
What's up, Kevin?
Jeremy, what's going on, brother? How you doing today?
I should have thought ahead of time and had the Ray Lynch Award sitting here next to me, and you should have had yours there too, and we could have had some fun with that. Glad to be here, man.
No worries, man. We said it, we did it. The communities where we live and work, they know it, and we did it. That's it. It's in the record books now.
Yes, sir.
They can't take that away. But Jeremy, what is it like? We got a lot in common and some stuff that I'm just wondering about because I can't relate to. What is it like growing up in a big college football town? What is that like?
So I grew up just a little ways away from town, but I've lived here most of my life. And in West Virginia, we don't have any pro sports teams. So the Mountaineers are that's our version of our pro football, our pro basketball, our pro baseball. So it means a lot. They say in the SEC they say it means more or something like that. But I don't think that's necessarily true because we bleed blue and gold throughout this entire state. It's not just like a section of the state. We're here in Morgantown. We're on the northern end, very close to Pennsylvania, actually. But if you get down 3-4 hour drive south of here, folks down in that part of the state bleed blue and gold just the same as we do. So there's a lot of pride. And it doesn't matter whether our teams are good or awful or anywhere in between. Everybody's always just adamant supporters, and it's a big part of the tradition of being a West Virginian. So.
Well, I love it. For those people listening that don't know, there's a fairly well-known basketball player from West Virginia that happens to be the logo on the NBA basketball. What are the Jerry West stories that you heard growing up?
One more time.
What are the Jerry West stories that you heard growing up with Jerry West being a native of West Virginia?
So Jerry's a legend. Not just in West Virginia, but really worldwide. But that's one of those things where again, being a West Virginian, anybody that's famous from the state or in any way associated with the state are just absolute legends here. And Jerry West, I don't know if this is well known around here. He was always called Zeke from Cabin Creek. That's his nickname. He's from a little town called Cabin Creek down very close to where the Greenbrier is, which is one of the more famous landmarks in that part of the state. But very, very rural part of the state. And even to see that area now and to think that the guy who became the logo came from there is just unbelievable. I've heard stories that I think his graduating high school class had like 12 people in it or something
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
He comes to Morgantown and played with a couple other guys that made a mark. Hot Rod Hundley was on that
Nice.
team with him,
Yes.
and he was what was he, an executive with the Utah Jazz for years,
Yes.
general manager,
Yes. Yes.
and kind of crazy to think that two guys that played together for the Mountaineers, 60 years ago, um, were running major NBA franchises until recently.
No,
So
absolutely.
a neat thing.
Jerry West not only has the accolades for what he's done on the court, but he also gets credit for putting together some of the best teams in the world. His role in putting together Showtime Lakers, his role in
Mhm.
putting together, I believe, the Golden State Warriors. I think he was an advisor, and he just has an eye for it and a knack for leadership and things of that nature. So shout out to West Virginia. I'd love to bring up other people. Am I correct in bringing up Randy Moss? Am I remembering that wrong? Is he a West Virginian as well?
Randy Moss is from down in Logan, West Virginia, again, Southern coal fields, and yeah, he's of course he's famous for his football skills, but a little known fact, he was better at basketball in high school, and
Wow,
he and Jason Williams played on a high school basketball team together,
that's scary.
and the videos of those two playing together are just absolute insanity. Um, but the crazy thing is, they lost the state championship their senior year. And you
How
think
does
that
that happen?
two guys, one of them was an NBA superstar, one's an NFL superstar. They played on the same high school team again, and this is a small part, like small population part of a small population state, and just to think that those two guys grew up together and ended up on the same, they just um, absolutely crazy that you have that kind of talent that comes out of that small of an area.
Well, I think everybody still remembers Randy Moss because he's on ESPN every week. And shout out to Randy, thoughts and praise with him as he goes through his battle with cancer. But anybody that doesn't remember Jason Williams, please YouTube White Chocolate. Please YouTube White Chocolate.
White man, I haven't heard that for a long time.
Put some respect on that man's name. Put some respect on that man's name. He put plenty of people in the spin cycle trying to figure out where he was going with the ball next, where he was going with the ball next. So, man, Jeremy, this is easy for us. I can go in this West Virginia Sports Hall of Fame conversation, but we need to talk a little bit about insurance. Tell me what you love about being an all-state agent.
And for me, I've been in the business for 14 years, almost 14, no, almost 15. Jeez, I have a hard time keeping up with that sometimes. But what I've enjoyed about it has changed over the years, and early on, it was just the thrill of taking care of friends and family, and growing the agency with building referral connections and just the excitement of that on a daily basis, and over the years, as my role has changed, as the agency's grown, the thing that I really enjoy and that I'm passionate about these days is bringing on team members and developing them to put them in a position where they can literally change the trajectory of their lives. I mean, this is not a situation where somebody has to have a master's or a PhD in order to be able to make life changing kind of money. And for the right type of person that has the personality and the drive and the coachability, if that's a word, we'll make it up if it's not. Just to come in and learn and trust the things that we teach them and take it and run with it. When they can, maybe with a nothing more than a high school degree, which is fine. I don't worry about what their education is. I'm more worried about how well they fit into our culture and how coachable they are. But when they can take that stuff and then maybe whatever job they did before, they could earn 40, 50,000 dollars. They can come do this and make well into six figures and literally change the trajectory of their family's lives. Like that's just it's something that's a lot of fun for me, and it's very, very rewarding when you see it you see somebody working towards it, and then that moment you see it click and it starts really, really rolling. That's the stuff. That's what it's all about.
That's the game changer. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I think I saw in your Facebook feed that you're advertising and hiring right now, and the numbers that you had on your post, what a potential sales agent can earn in your agency. Am I correct in seeing that you're advertising that if they come in and do the right job at the highest level, they're looking at being at 80 to 100K a year?
Yeah, I mean that's I know a lot of people with hiring for sales roles will put pie in the sky type numbers on a job posting just to get as much response as possible. And for me, like I don't want that ad to reel in the wrong people. I want it to be a magnet for the folks that really fit into what it is that we're doing and what we're continuing to build. But those numbers are very, very realistic, and realistic enough that I have two that are on my team right now that they continue what they're doing right now. They'll both be six-figure earners this year. So maybe 80 to hundreds, actually not high enough. I might need to adjust those numbers. That was last updated probably a year and a half, 2 years ago.
With Jeremy, man, you have my attention. So, for my West Virginia audience that's listening, anyone that's getting excited about this, how hard is it to get a license to sell insurance in West Virginia? You mentioned they don't need some fancy college degree. What is the process? What hurdles do they have to overcome in order to get a license to have an opportunity to work in your agency?
That's what I call cram an exam. These days, getting a license is easier than ever. You hear a lot of horror stories from people about the experience they had in either getting or trying to get a license. And yeah, I was around long enough ago when I first got my life license, which was before I was with Allstate. I had to go to a class for a week.
Yes.
That was the study option. And in that class, yeah, most of the time got spent with the people who didn't belong there, asking questions that made the rest of us kind of sigh and roll our eyes. So it wasn't a very effective method. But these days, you want to get into selling insurance, you can get, instead of getting a full blown property and casualty license, you can get a personal lines license, which again, when I studied for property and casualty, the book was this thick, where
Right.
personal lines, if you put that in a book, it's about like this. But yeah, that material is all online now. They have some really good tools, and yeah, just different ways of teaching and helping you learn that make that a much easier process for a lot of people. Not everybody learns by reading a book.
No.
So you can learn it by watching videos. You can learn it by reading. You can learn it by just interactive type study material. And the guidance that I give to somebody who doesn't have a license and needs to get it is to cram it for 3 to 5 days and have the test scheduled before you start studying. The folks that try to study for weeks on end are the ones that fail over and over again because, let's face it, the content you learn in getting your license is not exciting. It's
No.
meant to be a barrier to entry. It's not meant to teach you how to be successful in the field. That's a little known secret outside of the industry. But the material is not exciting enough that the things that you learn early on, if you drag this out over a 3 4 week process, you're going to forget by the time you get to the
Yeah.
test. So it's a that cram and exam thing is real. Everybody I know that does it that way is successful in their first attempt, and those that try to study for weeks or months on end tend to be the ones that struggle. So it's easy, and it's well, it's easy if you approach it the right way. Um,
No, I'd have to agree with what you said. I can remember studying for my 6 and 63, and it's one of those things where maybe you have to take the whole weekend. You have to not now,
mm,
not doing March Madness, but you got to cut the TV off. Not right now, not this weekend, but a different weekend where there's less going on, and only do that, right, and block out
yep,
all your other thoughts. And Monday or Tuesday at the latest of that same week, go in and take the exam, get in the
absolutely.
game, and then you really learn about insurance. So, Jeremy, we jumped right in the business end of the pool. I forgot to give you an opportunity to acknowledge and shout out your beautiful family.
Well, I'm luckily married to. I always say I married up. Um, I was I was single for a long time, so I got married in my mid 30s, and my wife Amanda's she's a nurse. Um, she she's done some amazing things in her career. She worked in pediatric ICU when we first met, taking care of kids that are in some of the worst situations you can imagine. And man, it takes a special breed of person to be able to tough that out day in and day out. And she did that for a long time. She's got more of a desk nursing job these days, so that during those times that was night shift. And when we had our first one, she switched to a desk job where she can be at home more and not be trying to work through the night and sleep during the day and then all that crazy stuff. But we have a 10-year-old and a 6-year old, both boys, Eli and Jack. They're both characters in their own way. Jack, the younger one, he's undoubtedly my mini me. He's got my sarcastic sense of humor, which some people might call smartass. Um, which, now that I think of it, my oldest has that too. So I've got two of those. My older boy is mannered a lot more, like my wife. So he's probably considered to be nice and smart and all those things that I'd call her. Where the younger one got all of his traits from his dad. So he's got some rough years ahead of him.
All right. So speaking of your boys, late last year, early this year, you took me and everybody that was on your Facebook Live that day. You took us for a ride through West Virginia. It was snowing. You were showing
Oh
us
man,
the mountains.
yeah.
Um, and I got to tell you, I present myself as a gangster agent from New York, but the reality is a pretty soft side to me. And when you're going through those mountains, it's snowing. I was pretty shook. I've seen so many movies where someone's coming around one of those cliffs and those
Mhm.
lanes, and then all of a sudden something bad happens. But which son was riding with you that day? You had a son in the front seat, or
Yes,
was
sir.
I don't know if one was in the
He was
back,
in the
but
back. Yeah. So Jack, my little one, was with me. My oldest was with my wife skiing that day.
wow,
It actually was not supposed to snow that day, so they got up that morning and took off for 2 hours away, where we have a cabin in that part of the state, and they went to go ski, and they ended up having to stay even though they weren't planning on it. But
wow,
my youngest and I were. It's a tradition. We go to my parents for lunch every Sunday, and they only live 20 minutes or so up the road. And Jack and I jumped in the truck, and we saw it coming down pretty hard that morning. And I'm not one who usually messes with my phone much when I'm driving, but when we stopped to turn around, I went ahead and put it in my mount on the dash and turned the camera on there just because I thought it'd be entertaining. But literally couldn't tell where the road was. When we first left the house, we followed a snowplow up the road, and we hit a point eventually where that plow hit the county line, and he had to turn around. And I
ooh,
tested it just to see. I mean, I grew up driving in the snow, so it doesn't scare me a bit. But we got maybe 500 feet past where he stopped and turned around, and I was watching mailboxes to know if I was on the
oh
road
my
or not.
god.
And I just decided, if I'd been by myself, I'd have probably kept going. But with my boy in the back seat, I decided that was probably not a wise gamble. But we had some fun with it, and luckily we followed the snowplow right back down the hill on the way back to the house, and then we rode that storm out for the rest of the afternoon. Played some Madden on the PlayStation and some Nerf basketball, and just had some fun inside.
So Jeremy, for the audience that didn't see that Facebook Live that I caught you doing,
Yeah.
you used the words matter. You used the word hill. Give me a sense of how high up you were going up because it looked very single lane to me. A lot of movies with scenery like that I've seen in my life. What sort of peaks and what sort of valleys do you have coming down a hill like that?
Well, so they call us the Mountain State, even though there's nowhere in West Virginia that has elevation anything like what there is out west. The difference is, in West Virginia, our mountains go like this, where out there their mountains go more gradual.
Yeah.
So everything here is up and down, and that's just the nature of the overwhelming majority of the state. So just for reference, there, I'm thinking out loud here and hopefully giving accurate numbers, but I know some of these because I watch elevation on my watch gives me elevation. So when I left my house, I'm at about 1710 elevation, and then by the time I got to the top where I turned it around, which is normally a 5 minute drive, that day that was every bit of 15 to 20. You're at about 2300 elevation. So the road that I live on is steep, and then it's steep, but also very windy. So in the winter, it's a little scary for some that aren't used to it, and for a lot that are used to it.
That that would be me. So let's bridge the gap. Let's bridge the gap between fallen snow between 1,700 feet, steep mountains, to 2,300 feet. What does that mean in terms of insurance hazards? I can think of a couple, but how important is it for you to properly advise your local customers with the coverages that they need to have? Because that's the terrain, that's the landscape,
It
that's the
is.
geography of the area. So, how does that play into your coverage advice, both on the auto insurance front and the home insurance front?
So we're blessed in this area. We are as natural disaster free as I think about anywhere on the planet is. The worst things that we get in this area are when you have a hurricane that comes inland, and then it gets to mountains, and those mountains are high enough that it stops and then it sits here. So we've had some, over my lifetime, we've had a couple of pretty significant floods that have come from those hurricanes. But those tend to hit um, some of the really rural areas, and that's not to say that people aren't impacted. There's definitely people impacted by it, but it's not something that happens on the regular, like some other areas of the country where you have tornadoes and you get coastal and you have hurricanes constantly. Like, this is a once every 20-year thing for us.
Okay.
And otherwise, we don't really see tornadoes. We don't really see wildfires and things like that. But we do have a lot of random snowstorms that come just in the geography. Everything west of us is flat. So when
Okay.
storm systems come across the country, they get to us and there's these mountains, they just stall.
Okay.
So based on that, here I go into like I'm a meteorologist. West Virginia and the part of the state I'm in actually has more days of precipitation per year than Seattle.
Wow.
We don't get more precipitation, but we have more days of the year where there is precipitation because of that. And with that, like I say, we get some snow in the winter that is mostly a driving hazard.
Okay.
Sometimes you get the 3.5 foot snow that can cause issues with a roof or other issue, water damage with property. You get ice dams that build up and you start getting water that comes through the roof. But those are all pretty rare things. The biggest thing for us, West Virginia, over the years, this has started to change recently, but it's a very historically a very litigious state.
That
And
was my question. That's what I wanted to ask. I'm thinking of the liability associated, but go for it. Talk about the litigious side and the importance of the right liability limits.
without getting too political, for a lot of years, the state house and senate were almost all trial attorneys, and a lot of the laws were written accordingly. And like I say, some of that shifted in the last few years in a good way, and at least from an insurance agent's perspective. But there's still definitely that risk in that when there's a liability type of scenario, which your primary liability exposures anytime you get in your car and drive down the road. But when there's someone that's injured as a result of that, there's plenty of attorneys that are around ready to pounce on those situations. And I don't know that that's different than anywhere. We get the commercials all day, every day on TV,
Yeah. Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
showing their faces that kind of stuff. But that's that's the basis for the guidance that we give our prospects and our customers is in talking about the importance of liability. And what one of the smartest people in the industry I know refers to as a wise use of premium. That's Allie
Yes.
Donor. I got that term from. But a lot of folks are focused on minimizing their premium by keeping low limits on everything, but then they want low deductibles
Yeah.
because they don't want to have a lot of money out of pocket if something happens. And everything in our sales process and in the way we handle our existing customer base is designed around helping them understand that carrying higher deductibles to offset the cost of increasing liability limits, so that if that situation happens to them, that they don't find themselves, you know, losing in this state anyway, any money that you have that's liquid and things not in your retirement account, any property you own, they can put a lien on, and then they can garnish wages up to 20%. So there's a story from a few years ago. It wasn't one of my customers or even anyone associated with Allstate, but there was a 23-year-old kid that just graduated college that hit an ambulance going through an
Oh my
intersection.
God. Jeez.
The guy who was driving the car that hit it was actually went through a green light, and there was a truck in a turn lane that prevented him from being able to see the ambulance coming. So he didn't really do anything wrong, honestly. But the ambulance ran a red light and had its lights on, and he hit it and it flipped it on its top. Thankfully, it didn't have any patients
Okay.
inside, but it was a brand new ambulance, and it was actually an attorney friend of mine that shared this story with me. And if I remember the numbers right, that ambulance was $279,000. And
Wow.
this kid that hit it had a policy with a, I think it was with a lizard maybe, but
Yeah.
he had state minimum property damage of
Oh,
25,000, and he I don't know what kind of limits the ambulance company had for underinsured, but not enough, and he ended up having his wages garnished, and he was going to lose X amount of money out of his paycheck for the next like 18 or 20 years, something like
yeah.
that. And a lot of folks only give advice about liability to the conventional wisdom in the industry is that the people who are well to do, that have money are the ones that have something to lose. But I kind of I flip that on its head, and I think those younger folks that have the rest of their lives, their future incomes at risk, I think they need that liability protection, maybe even more so than the 70-year old that's got a couple million in the bank account.
No, absolutely. Because if it's not a good time to have a 50 to $100 a week taken out of your paycheck on a weekly basis, you definitely want to protect yourself and spend 30 extra dollars a month on the front end to get it. This is what we do, though. We talk about being there and giving the right protection so we can show up on the worst day of our clients' lives.
Absolutely.
So, Jeremy, let's dig into the most common brotherhood we share, which is in giving back to the community.
Love it.
Rayledge Community Service Award, Angel Tree for Children in Need. We support Chestnut Mountain Ranch. We support Stepping Stones, Volunteer Habitat for Humanity, Habitat for Humanity, Monongalia County, Bartlett House, Morgantown. Talk to me about the community activity that's nearest and dearest to your heart right now.
So these days it's the angel tree. That's become a tradition for us the last 6 years. And you know, actually just this past weekend, I attended a gala event for local organization that represents children in foster care, and they're one of the organizations that we work with the angel tree. And they they chose me as their community partner of the year, and brought me and the others that were with me up on stage and recognized us for what we do with the angel tree. And where that came from. This angel tree thing started completely by accident 6 years ago. um, I was at my Rotary Club meeting, and we had a guest speaker that day that was the executive director of a local domestic violence shelter, and this was like mid-November. And something just compelled me that after the meeting was over, I approached her, and I don't remember how it all went, but I asked her if they did anything for the kids for Christmas, and she broke down into tears right there on the spot. And she said, "We just had our budget meeting this morning, and we realized for the first time ever we can't do anything." So, without even thinking about it, I just said, "Well, do you have wish lists and like sizes and things for them?" And she said, "We do." I said, "Can you send that to me? And I'll figure out a way. We'll make sure they get taken care of." And
Wow.
she says, "Jeremy, you didn't ask me how many kids there are yet." And I said, "Well, I realized that too, but I guess I wasn't supposed to. So, uh, can you send me those lists?" And she's like,
Yes.
"I can, but do you want to know how many first?" And I said, "Sure, humor me. How many?" And she said, 17. I thought, okay,
Okay.
we can figure out a way to get 17 kids taken care of. And wasn't much of a social media user at all, really, at that
Mhm.
point. But I thought, here's a good use for it, and I just started posting on Facebook, asking if anybody wanted to sponsor a kid, and it took off. We had more sponsors than we had kids to start with, and they ended up having. Unfortunately, that time of year is a time where they get a lot of their clients in, and they had more clients that came in, and they ended up with 32, 33 kids that first year, and we got all of them taken care of. And the second year, all my sponsors came back and wanted to help again, and then more people wanted to help, and we had to find other organizations to work with, and that just kept
Wow.
growing over the years. And 3 years ago was the first year we worked with this CASA organization, and then they were facilitating their own stuff on their website. So the first couple of years, like I had to just go onto their website and like pick kids and put my name in as a sponsor, and then we'd make them part of our angel tree. And this past year, I just asked them, I said, can I offload that for you? Like you guys have jobs you have to take care
Yes.
of that are more
Yes.
important. Like go take care of those kids. Let me take care of the Christmas stuff. And that I guess it turns out, if I'm being honest, I did that because I just thought it'd be easier for us to do it that way than
Right.
to like go in there and pull that information off the website. And that was I guess the basis for what made them choose me as their partner of the year, because that ended up being a big deal for them to not have to worry about kind of being the middleman in taking care of all that. So I just enjoy it, and I get I get a huge I don't even know what to call it. It's just a huge sense of community and just pride in seeing how many people and a lot of the folks that sponsor, they might not be. Um, they might be struggling financially too, but they step up and do this because they know there's nobody that needs it more. And
Yeah.
the passion behind the whole thing is just that I can't stand the thought of one of these kids. And you think like we're working with kids that are in foster and kids that are in a domestic violence shelter at Christmas time. I
Yeah.
can't imagine. Like I'm blessed. My parents are still married to this day. I grew up in a wonderful family. I had aunts and uncles all around my house. My grandparents lived right in front of us, and just grew up in a really good situation. So I can't imagine what it's like for these kids to be in that circumstance, and yeah, that's where the drive for it comes from. And we don't always know. Like we don't get to see the reaction from the kids or anything like that, but I'll get a letter or two every year from the organizations. And we had a letter this year from a 16-year-old, and I'll have to watch her. I'll get emotional on us here, Kevin.
I
Um,
hear the inflection in your voice. I hear the
yeah,
sincerity in your heart. Go ahead.
this young lady wrote a letter and said how appreciative her and her sister were, that they had never had Christmas gifts in their life. She was 16, um, and that because of those Christmas gifts, she felt like there was a reason that she was here for the first time in her life. Mm. Mm. So, um, yeah, based on that, I can't ever not like I'll be doing this angel tree as long as I can do it, because um, I just can't. I don't know. Can't imagine what it's like to be in that situation, and if us doing the little bit of work that we do, and it's more than a little bit of work, but it just never feels like it. But if us doing that has that kind of impact on even one kid, it's worth every ounce of energy we put into it.
Man. Jeremy, thank you for sharing that story with us. Thank you for sharing the letter. Thank you for sharing the heart. I was listening attentively and quietly because I heard the inflection in your voice change as you talked about the young lady at age 16 sharing that those are her first gifts. Um, and I think beyond the children that you're helping the sponsors as well, because there is a, we hear that saying it's better to give to receive. until you do it, you don't know what that means. But once you do it, you feel it and it becomes a part of you and a way of doing not business, it's a way of doing life. And that's
Mhm.
what I hear from you. Not only are you doing it locally, my big prep process for these podcasts is looking at social media feeds, and I saw the invitations that you have out there, inviting others to participate, others to adapt a family, and whether you're an empty nester because the kids are gone, or maybe you're a parent that never had a child or an adult, and you want to do this from your heart, not because there are accolades associated with it. Just incredible. Keep doing that good work and giving other people purpose. What I hear, feel, and think in my spirit is that that young lady, that 16-year-old, this time it's a letter, but I can see her 5, maybe 10 years from now coming back to you and asking, how can she get involved to give back? And I can see her put in an application for one of those incredible jobs that you have in your agency. So
That
let me
would
go
be
back to
that'd be the coolest thing I could imagine.
yeah, I can like I'm crazy like that. I think like that.
Mhm.
Let me ask you a question. We're coming in close to the finish, but I want to go back to what you're doing in your agency, the wonderful earning opportunity that few current and future staff have in your agency. I'm in New York with New York expenses. What does that 80 to 100,000? What kind of lifestyle does that buy in West Virginia? Does that position someone with a little savings discipline to be a homeowner and to live a good lifestyle?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm glad you asked that because I really hadn't thought about like I used to follow that more closely. I studied econ in college, and that was always a big topic in many different economics classes. Was cost of living differences in different parts of the country, and I remember years ago seeing that a dollar in West Virginia was, or a dollar. I'm sorry, a dollar in Boston was equivalent to $2.12 here. Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how any of that works out these days, but yeah, being at or near six figures is a pretty good living in this area, and you can absolutely be a homeowner. You know, home costs are high in this particular part of the state, but when I say high, like if I told you what a 2,000 square foot house costs here, you'd laugh. Uh,
Well, humor
so,
me and humor the audience. We have people from
so
New York, California, Florida, across
yeah, so
2,000 square feet. What does that buy in West Virginia? What is that going to run someone?
a 2,000 square foot 3 bedroom home here in good shape is probably 400,000. Uh,
That's a
and
beautiful number.
that's with an acre or two of land with it, not
Oh,
a spot of grass in front of it. So,
an acre or two of space in the yard. That's well, I don't know if your neighbors are going to be happy, but you're going to cause a lot of folks to start looking at West Virginia as a destination. I don't know if you want that much population growth, but
we
that
had
doesn't
quite a
exist
few
around the rest of the country.
post COVID. We had quite a few folks from mostly from Oregon, California, that part of the country that ended up here because of cost of living and working remote, and it was a huge shift, and there were a ton of folks that relocated here.
Yeah, that is unfathomable. An acre or two in New York does not exist at any price point. It just
Right.
doesn't exist.
Right.
We could put a zero behind it. It doesn't exist. Jeremy, you're doing the Lord's work in your agency. You're doing the Lord's work in the community. At the end of the hard day, as a family man, as a businessman, as a community servant, how do you wind down at the end of the day? How do you decompress?
So, I'm 48 and I've got a 6 and a 10-year-old. It's not always easy to keep up with a 6 and a 10-year-old at 48, but I'll tell you that both of them are huge into sports right now. I got one that's into basketball, one that's into football, and every night um, I'm getting, "Hey, Dad, can we go throw a football? Hey, Dad, can we go play basketball?" And keeping up with either one of them and running around is surprisingly good decompression. So it's exhausting at times, but it undoubtedly very quickly takes your mind off of all the stresses of everything we deal with otherwise. So that's undoubtedly top of the list. I also am I'm a firm believer in the power of meditation. Um,
Okay.
I used to laugh at that and thought it was just something weird people did, but got into it probably 5 or 6 years ago, and I do it daily, and it's you hit those moments where you feel like the top's going to blow off. There's no better way to decompress to me than yeah, solid 5-10 minutes of meditation.
I love it. What does that look like? Does that look like you're sitting outside on your acreage near a fire pit? What does that meditation look like? How do we get to that place of peace?
There's tons of different ways to do it, and I'm certainly not an expert. I'm not the type that goes and sits and does the yeah all of that. But there's a handful of different apps on your phone that'll walk you through it as a beginner. I went through several of those over time, and I've switched around and used some different ones. But realistically, just some type of soft music. Close your eyes. A lot of those practices will walk you through just focusing on your breathing or focusing on things like that. And it's the weirdest thing that if you haven't done it before, it sounds ridiculous. Like how could focusing on your breathing help you? I, I can't tell you that I understand the science behind it, but I can tell you that you do it for 10 minutes and you open your eyes back up and it's a it's just a completely different world. So
No.
uh,
Thank you for sharing that.
sure.
I like to say may or may not be true. Everyone may or may not agree, but I don't care what's on your to-do list. But the next most important thing that we all have to do, it's to breathe. And if anyone wants to challenge it, try not to breathe the next minute, and let me know how that works out for you. Uh, Jeremy, you have been a fantastic guest. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with? Anything you wanted to talk about? Anything that you thought I might ask you that I didn't ask you on this podcast?
I'm just glad you gave me that opportunity, because when we talked about the angel tree stuff, in sharing that story, I neglected to share what I think is one of the coolest, or just I don't know what the right word to describe it is, but one of my favorite parts of it in the community that we have as agents, and you know very well what I mean. Anybody that's not an Allstate agent might not understand that, but there's a brother and sisterhood, or I don't know what the right word to describe it is, but the
Yes.
connections within our agent community are strong. And from the first year that I did this angel tree, I have been blown away. Every year I have agents from all over the country that reach out to me. They may send gifts for a kid. They may send money just to help take care of sponsoring a kid. I have had agents from New York, from South Carolina, from Alabama, from California, Oklahoma, all over the country that have gotten involved. Las Vegas, and it's been it's just been a theme in every year that we've done it. And this is not like I've not reached out to any of these people to specifically ask them to do it. And some of these people are agents that I've never even met face to face.
Yeah.
We know each other simply through Facebook posts, and and it's been amazing that support we've seen from there. And it's this weird variable where every year we end up with the exact right number of sponsors for the kids that we have, and the money that these guys send or the gifts that they send always end up like buttoning up the last few
Beautiful.
kids that we have to take care of. And it's one of those things that you can't explain it with any science or anything like
No,
that. It
no.
is it's just one of those gifts from God that it's supposed to happen out. It's just supposed to happen that way, and that's the only way to describe it. And I'm so incredibly appreciative of those relationships and the amazing people that step up and do those things year in and year out. It's it's part of what makes me love what I do is those amazing connections and the wonderful people that I've gotten to know all over the country, you included. So you I've shared this with you before. I'm going to share it with anybody that's listening. The award that Kevin and I have in common, me winning that award was influenced heavily by Kevin. When I heard his story, didn't necessarily make me want to chase the award. It made me want to do bigger and better things when I heard about the amazing things that Kevin was doing in his community. So um, shout out to Kevin for that, and the inspiration you've given not just to me but to a lot of others.
I appreciate you for saying that. And I'll close with the funny story. You talk about being in shape to hang with your 6 and 10-year-old. I had my youngest son a little bit later in life, and I had this mindset with each of my two younger ones. My goal was to stay in shape until they were like 15, until they could beat me in a game of basketball. Fortunately, they both got there faster. But you and I had a chance to hang out last year at Craig's house in Alabama. We
Yeah.
did some competitive activities, and thank God you're in good shape, man. I was in trouble a couple of times out there, but you were good. You no matter what activity they threw our way, you were good.
Not really, but I faked it pretty good.
Jeremy, thank you, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you for taking us to
Thank
West
you.
Virginia. Thank you for sharing the angel in you and all that you're doing for the Angel Tree for children in need. You have been absolutely a phenomenal guest. And for everybody that's tuned in today, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to watch this episode of Wind Down with Kev. Whether you're watching it live on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, or if you're listening to it at a later date on your favorite podcast platform, thank you, thank you, thank you. For those of you, if you enjoy content like this, and I know you did, I know Jeremy touched your heart, go ahead and do me a favor. Click on that subscribe and notification button on the bottom so you can be informed when great content like this becomes available when we go ahead and put it out there. Big thank you to my sponsors, Canopy Connect and Carol Media, both sponsors that have done a great job of helping me become a bigger, better digital agent and streamlining my process. Also, thank you to Wintrust, my bank, my financial partner, and everything that I do. And last but definitely not least, big thank you to our guest today, Jeremy Radabow, for giving us a journey, a fun, steep journey with peaks and valleys and tears and joy through Morgantown, West Virginia.